The Singapore Grand Prix controversy has finally reached its conclusion, and Oscar Piastri has delivered his verdict on the clash with teammate Lando Norris that sent shockwaves through the Formula One paddock. What unfolded at Turn 3 during the opening lap at Marina Bay has now been dissected, analysed, and resolved behind closed doors at McLaren, with Piastri revealing exactly who the team held responsible for the incident that cost him a podium position and valuable championship points. The incident occurred as both McLaren drivers navigated Turn 3 at the Marina Bay Street circuit for the first time on lap 1. Norris bumped into Piastri, making contact that forced the Australian wide and allowed Norris to consolidate third place on the road. Piastri was unable to recover from the position loss and finished the race in fourth place, while Norris secured third behind George Russell and Max Verstappen. The championship leader saw his advantage reduced by another 3 points, a significant loss in a title fight that remains intensely competitive, with just 6 races remaining in the F1 2026 season. McLaren refused to intervene during the race, a decision that clearly left Piastri aggrieved based on his radio communications and post-race comments. The team resolved to discuss the matter after the checkered flag, promising a comprehensive review of the incident away from the heat of battle. That internal investigation has now concluded, and Piastri has broken his silence on what transpired in those crucial team meetings that followed the Singapore Grand Prix. Speaking to Planet F1.com and other accredited media, Piastri revealed the outcome of McLaren's internal discussions. "We had a lot of discussions, as you would expect, and very productive," Piastri stated, providing the first public acknowledgement of the team's review process. The Australian driver then delivered the key revelation that motorsport fans had been waiting for. "I think we're very clear on how we want to go racing as a team, and that includes going forward, and the incident we had in Singapore isn't how we want to go racing." The most significant disclosure came when Piastri confirmed where the blame had been placed. "Lando has taken responsibility for that, and so have the team. So I think it's quite clear for us as a team that how lap 1 unfolded wasn't how we want to go racing." This statement represents an official acknowledgement from McLaren that Norris was at fault for the contact, a rare admission in Formula One, where teams typically avoid publicly assigning blame between their drivers. Norris himself acknowledged his part in the incident when he faced the media in Austin. "The team held me accountable for what happened, which I think is fair. And then we made progress from there on, understanding what the repercussions were for me, and on avoiding something, let's say, definitely avoiding anything worse happening than what did," Norris admitted. The British driver continued, expressing his regret over the situation. "This is the last thing I want. Something like that to happen to cause these kind of controversial talks after a race." Norris also emphasized the risk he put both drivers under during the incident. "At the same time, I put just as much risk on me putting myself out of the race as I do whoever I'm racing against, whether it's Oscar or anyone else. So it's clearly something I want to avoid." This acknowledgement demonstrates a level of maturity and self-awareness that speaks to the professional relationship between the two championship contenders. The question remains why McLaren chose not to address the situation during the race itself, especially given the clear impact on the championship battle. Piastri provided insight into the team's reasoning, explaining the complexity of making such decisions in real time. "In a live situation, it's very difficult to analyze that," Piastri explained when asked why the team did not redress the issue at the time. "Assessing whether swapping would have been the right thing to do in that scenario is very tough. So we've sat through it and talked through it, kind of out of the heat of the moment, and discussed what happened and with a few more points of data and stuff like that." Piastri continued his explanation, demonstrating understanding for the team's position, despite his initial frustration. "Ultimately, I don't think you can really say what would have been fair to do in the race, but yeah, ultimately, the responsibility has been put on Lando after the race." This measured response suggests that Piastri, while disappointed with the outcome, accepts the limitations of making split-second decisions during a Grand Prix. The Australian driver also addressed concerns about potential bias within the team, particularly after the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, where he was asked to move aside for Norris following a slow pit stop. In that instance, Piastri acquiesced and finished third behind Verstappen and Norris, leading to speculation about whether he receives equal treatment compared to his more experienced teammate. Piastri insists he does not feel there is any bias towards the other side of the garage and understands the reasons for the lack of action from the pit wall, despite acknowledgement of Norris's overstep in Singapore. Speaking to Racing News 365, Piastri defended McLaren's decision-making process. "The only thing I would say is it's not always clear immediately, in the car or in the race, what all the reasoning for certain decisions is," Piastri told media. "It's always been very clear afterwards why certain decisions have been taken and why things have been done in a certain way. So for me, I don't think it is overcomplicated. Everything has had a justifiable reason." Looking forward to the remaining races of the season, Piastri made his position crystal clear regarding any potential changes to how he races his teammate. "Nothing is going to change," he stated emphatically. "It's just clear that we have that framework in place anyway. That's how we're expected to go racing. So nothing is going to change because of what happened in Singapore." This declaration suggests that Piastri expects clean, fair racing from both drivers going forward, with the established framework serving as the guide for their on-track battles. The championship standings paint a compelling picture of what remains at stake. Piastri currently leads the Drivers' Championship with a 22-point advantage over Norris, while Verstappen sits 41 points further back in third place. With 6 races and 3 sprints remaining in the season, a maximum of 180 points are still available, meaning the championship battle remains mathematically open for all 3 drivers. Though Verstappen would need a dramatic collapse from both McLaren drivers to have a realistic chance. The Singapore incident, while damaging to Piastri's race result, did not prevent McLaren from achieving a significant milestone. With neither car damaged in the clash, and both drivers banking 3rd and 4th place finishes respectively, it was enough to confirm McLaren as Constructors' Championship winners for the 2nd consecutive year. This achievement underscores the team's dominant performance throughout the season, even as the drivers' title fight continues to generate tension and drama. However, Verstappen's 2nd place finish behind Russell in Singapore allowed the Dutchman to edge closer in the drivers' fight, keeping him as an outside chance at stealing the title from the McLaren duo. The Red Bull driver remains a constant threat, ready to capitalize on any further mistakes or incidents between the McLaren teammates. The transparent way both drivers and the team have handled this situation represents a mature approach to intra-team conflict. Rather than allowing the incident to fester or create lasting animosity, McLaren conducted a thorough review, assigned accountability where appropriate, and established clear expectations for future racing. Piastri's willingness to publicly defend the team's processes, while also making clear that Norris was held responsible, demonstrates a delicate balance between team loyalty and personal championship ambitions. The framework established by McLaren will now be tested across the remaining 6 races, with the United States Grand Prix serving as the first opportunity to see whether this resolution holds under continued championship pressure.